girl with a preppy vibe. Came to the spot with a friend of mine. She caught my eye. From the beginning, I was hooked. I can't tell a lie. Fresh, dressed, and fly. I respect her mind. Some dude trying to impress, but looking goofy at the same time. He bugging, she looking. I'm going for mine. Confidently, I approach with that eye-to-eye contact. She smiling while adjusting her hair, so I smile back. Pretty girl, what's your name? She said, is that true? Cause if it is, your name perfect for you. My name handsome. She said your name fits you too. See, we was clicking, and after that, time just flew. Then that time came to talk to her pops. He gave his blessing. And then that mind frame I had was honoring and protecting. I knew she was the woman we met. I found my future girl, and no other woman compares to my girl. Cause yeah, I knew it from the start.
This morning, the FBI is on the scene investigating a deadly mass shooting in a popular Austin nightlife area.
What is going on?
I've just been flagged down. Somebody advising there's an active shooter.
2 people were killed and 14 others injured when a gunman opened fire on Buford's Beer Garden early Sunday morning. 4 sources familiar with the investigation now identifying the suspect as a 53-year-old naturalized U.S. citizen from Senegal with possible mental health issues.
Close the door.
I heard people screaming, people running from this side over here.
The alleged shooter seen wearing a Property of Allah sweatshirt, according to multiple sources, and a shirt with an Iranian flag emblem underneath. Authorities are now trying to determine if this was an act of terrorism.
It's still way too early in the process to determine an exact motivation, but there were indicators that on the subject and in his vehicle that indicate potential nexus to terrorism.
Police say they arrived in under a minute.
It was really scary because the shooter was walking towards me.
Nathan Como had just left the bar and watched as police rushed in, killing the gunman. How did you feel?
I just felt shock. When I look back on it, I'm like, oh my God, like if I walked out of that bar 5 minutes later, I would have been on the patio instead of those other victims.
And police have not yet publicly identified the victims, but witnesses tell us that this was a bar that was popular among college students. We know that those 14 injured were taken to local hospitals, 3 of them in critical condition, but police this morning really crediting that 55 to 57 second response with saving lives.
All right, a quick response indeed. All right, Priscilla Thompson, Air Force in Texas. Priscilla, thank you. Hey.
I recognize that members of this committee may hold differing views about immigration policy, but it's important that we distinguish between disagreements over policy and the department's operational responsibility to enforce existing law that has been passed by Congress. It's our duty as a department to defend our homeland. The latest Democrat-led shutdown of DHS is reckless, it's unnecessary, and it undermines the American national security, and it harms the men and women who work at DHS and their families. Despite the House passing a bipartisan, bicameral full-year DHS funding bill, it is Senate Democrats who've chosen not to fund the department and have held this department hostage. As a result, critical national security missions, including border security, immigration enforcement, aviation security, disaster response, cybersecurity, and the protection of critical infrastructure, are all being strained. Our ability to provide for a safe and successful World Cup is being hindered as well. More than 100,000 dedicated DHS employees are once again being asked to work without pay for the 3rd time in just 5 months. At a time when we've produced the most secure border in history and removed nearly 3 million illegal aliens from our country, disrupting the department responsible for those gains is indefensible. I want to thank the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security for their professionalism, for their dedication, for their commitment to keeping America safe and continuing to show up and work even though they aren't being compensated for it. They've kept us safe and they have patience, and our success is only possible because of their service and sacrifices. I also want to thank our angel families that are behind us to tell their stories and testimonies, and also thank my husband for being here in support as well. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, Mr. Chairman, and to all the distinguished members. I look forward to your questions today. With that, I yield back.
Send the message down to your people that there's a reason that deconflicting is standard law enforcement practice for, among other things, officer safety. Will you do that?
Yes, sir, but I will tell you that our law enforcement are being doxxed at unprecedented levels. So at times we've run into situations in sanctuary cities or in sanctuary states where notifying that local law enforcement on some of these operations has doxxed them and their families and leaked a law enforcement operation, which puts people's lives in jeopardy. So they absolutely want to work with cooperative local law enforcement. And in that case specifically,
I suspect that there's a big difference
these
between
individuals
non-cooperation and actual interference with your operations. But I'll reserve that to a question for the record so you can substantiate that. Could you explain this?
Sir, I'm looking at a picture of an interior, looks like a bedroom.
Of an airplane?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
You're not familiar with that?
These photos are not accurate. If you're referring to the airplanes that the Department of Homeland Security has purchased and are purchasing, we're using them for long-range command and control aircraft that is dictated in statute by Congress for the Department of Homeland Security to have a plane.
Luxury jet with a bedroom in it?
Yeah, we used a 737. I've been on it once, but it is being used by other administration officials, and it is used for command and control flights for the department. The department has found that in purchasing our aircraft, that we will save the taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars.
Does it have a bedroom
in fact, we spent $1.42 billion on ICE deportation flights last year.
Does it have a bedroom in it?
I believe it's being refurbished and not having a bedroom in it. So it is being refurbished.
What kind of deportee justifies being flown out of the country in a luxury jet with a bedroom and accommodations like this?
There are aircraft being purchased that will be utilized for executive air travel and for deportations.
Well,
if you remember in the past, we have used jets of this size and this configuration for deportations in the past. If you remember
this configuration, by this configuration, you mean with a bedroom and luxury accommodations like this
that plane
used for deportations. Is that true?
Sir, we have 737s that are being purchased by the department to replace contracts that we have on ICE deportations. That's what they're going to be used for. And in fact, the Coast Guard is the only entity within the Department of Homeland Security that has jets at this point in time. They had two G5s that were 20 to 25 years old that are being replaced so that they can continue to serve our Coast Guard and our military for years to come.
About these aircraft. They've been reported as saying, although they don't want to say publicly this, but individuals described as senior administration officials have described these airplane purchases as the world's worst deal and an abuse of federal funds. Can you tell me what the Republicans on this committee who voted for what I call the billionaires bill that gave you the money to buy these jets knew about your plans to acquire luxury jets when they voted for that money?
The dollars for these airplanes was appropriated by Congress. In fact, it's mandated from Congress and rules that you've given us that we need to have a long-range command and control aircraft that will seat up to 17 people in the Department of Homeland Security for national security purposes. We are complying with the law. Those planes are being refurbished and will be utilized for that, and they'll be utilized by members of the administration and other components.
First,
they will also cut our costs, sir, by almost 40%. We are saving the taxpayer 40% by purchasing our own aircraft and operating them rather than being susceptible to the contracts that they have today.
We have an extra 2 minutes to fill in the filibuster there.
I'll give you 30 seconds beyond the 44 seconds you got now.
Truthfully answer a question for the record about your role in stopping the civil rights investigation into the Minnesota shootings?
Sir, I don't know what you're talking about. I did not stop any investigations whatsoever.
Will you testify truthfully if you get a QFR?
Yes, I testify truthfully. I did not
And
stop.
will you testify in the District of Columbia Federal Court contempt proceeding?
Sir, I do not know what you're referencing, and I would hope for some context.
The federal district court contempt proceeding related to the deportation contrary to a court.
Charge of your agency, the buck stops. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem.
Okay, y'all, so I'm back. Can you guys hear me now? Let's see. Can you guys hear me now? With me leaving and coming back in. Can you hear me now? Because otherwise, I don't know. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, I think they can. Okay. So I can hear on my tablet. Okay, so what I was saying to you guys is that we just saw where the gentleman was questioning Mrs. Kristi Noem regarding buying these luxury jets that have like bedrooms in them and everything. So that's crazy. Okay, you can hear me now. Awesome. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate that. So yeah, so I'm glad you guys could at least hear the video. Okay. So I was just saying, I was kind of just saying, like, hey, they were asking about those luxury jets and the beds inside of them. I did see where there was a comment from Mr. Robert Boyd. Welcome to the live stream to check in. That's not showing on my YouTube, but it is showing in Restream. And Mr. Boyd says, yes, and banging your boyfriend and cheating on your husband sounds like a great use of taxpayer money. And then he had a little something behind that, okay? So yes, I did see today where she was questioned about possibly sleeping with one of her staffers. I didn't get a chance to listen to that in full, but I will have that for tomorrow. But yes, so that was the first thing where the guy was questioning her about those planes and how to spend that money. Now, the next thing we have that was interesting is her and Mr. Cory Booker, okay? And her and him letting her know that she's incompetent, okay? So let's go ahead and get into that.
You're in charge of your agency. The buck stops with you, correct?
I'm in charge of my agency, what?
The buck stops with you,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
And you had to swear an oath to the Constitution before you took this job, right?
Correct.
So one of the most sacrosanct ideals of our nation, enshrined in our Constitution, is freedom, is liberty.
Mm-hmm.
It is an idea that the government has a very high standard should they take away liberty and freedom from an American citizen. How many U.S. citizens has DHS detained as of last October?
Senator, if you're talking about detained and arrested, is that those that have been violating and obstructing our law enforcement operations? Is that what you're referencing? Because it could be hundreds and hundreds. We have faced violent riots across the country,
you are
specifically in Portland and in Minneapolis.
The only people you've detained are committing crimes, but you and I both know
No,
that's
I haven't
not true.
said that. I didn't
so then
say that.
how
I asked
many
which ones you
people
were referencing.
have you detained?
I can't give you an accurate number because we've literally detained and arrested many for those obstruction of law enforcement operations, and also
public
others
records,
that had probable
let me tell you what
cause.
my staff researched.
And then released
May I
yes.
continue? Public records are showing that over 170 incidents of your agency unlawfully taking away the liberties and freedoms of American citizens. This includes 20 children, 20 American kids that your agency detained. How long can your agency detain an American citizen?
We don't detain children and separate them from their parents. Those parents have chosen
You're telling me
to
under
keep their
oath
child
right now.
with
Hold on.
them.
I just want to be clear. You're telling me under oath right now that your agency has not detained American children.
Those parents have chosen to keep their children with them. We don't separate families like the Biden
hold on.
administration
Let me
did.
continue.
We keep them together, and parents have the option on if they want their child with them or not with them.
How long do detentions last when you detain an American citizen? How long do they last?
We don't detain American citizens, and if there's probable cause.
Let me give you, because you are not speaking truthfully under oath. Isaiah Pena Salcedo, a U.S. citizen living in California, was detained more than 70 hours, almost 3 days, even after he showed ICE agents his passport. My colleague, Senator Blumenthal, gave you example after example. He brought people here who had something else we Americans consider sacrosanct, our home, our property. Your masked agents jumping out of unmarked cars have broken into, considerable property damage occurring, into American citizens' homes. Case after case of this, and you sit here before me and claim the buck stops with you, but you don't even know the names of these individuals. I ran New Jersey's largest municipal police department. When my officers engaged in misconduct, you can be damn well sure I knew about it and I investigated it.
Okay.
And yet you have situations where your officers are violating the sanctity of people's homes, arresting and detaining them and holding their children. And you're acting as if you don't know about it and saying that under oath. Miramar Martinez, who is here right now, on her way to church, an American citizen going to church, not just to worship, but to donate clothing. Your officers shot her multiple times. The case was thrown out of court, and you represent here that you don't know about it. In New Jersey, are you aware of your officers' activities in places like schools? Are you aware of your officers' activities at our public schools?
Sir, we don't go into schools and do targeted law enforcement operations. We do targeted law enforcement operations like other agencies
So you're
and law
telling me that
enforcement
ICE officers entered the grounds of a high school in Minneapolis? That's a fact. Elementary school children in New Jersey are terrified of your agents. When they came upon a school bus stop, they fled. Another school, a higher education, Columbia University, your agents reportedly lied to students, told them they were searching for a missing person to gain access to private spaces, to non-public areas of campus. Secretary Noem, these are kids. They're terrified in our communities. How do you think that affects them when children in my state go running, fleeing, and often you all pursue children, throwing them to the ground, getting on their backs, putting them in handcuffs? I want to talk to you about this incredible empire of for-profit companies that are profiting at rates we've never seen, and the way you're using money. Let's drill down on the warehouses that DHS has been buying over the last several months, totaling hundreds of millions of dollars. Are you familiar with the acquisition of a warehouse DHS recently bought in Roxbury Township, New Jersey?
Yes.
You are familiar with that?
Mm-hmm. I'm
Do you
familiar
know
that
how
it's...
much you spent for it?
No, sir, I do not.
$129.3 million. Do you know how much it was assessed for in New Jersey?
What?
Sir, we're purchasing centers across the country to build efficiency into our detention system.
Efficiency to
so that
me,
we
as
can...
a person who's run tight budgets before and had taxpayer dollars, you paid $129.3 million for a facility in my state that was assessed at less than half of that, at $62 million. To work for a president that says he's a great deal maker, I can't believe he thinks that you're a great deal maker. But what's worse than that is that the Roxbury Township Council, comprised entirely of Republicans, voted unanimously early this year to oppose that facility. My office tried to facilitate a meeting between DHS and local officials so that ICE could hear their concerns, yet DHS did not even respond. That is unacceptable, that you all would enter a town, you wouldn't even follow environmental reviews or have conversations with local officials about the resources, from emergency resources to fire resources and more, that you're going to pull down. You didn't even have a conversation. Secretary Noem, do you comply with court orders?
Yes, we do comply
Your
with
agency
court
complies
orders.
with court orders.
Yes, we comply with federal court
You were
orders.
saying under oath that you do, and yet we know in January the chief judge, Republican appointed for the Federal District of Minnesota, found that ICE had violated nearly 100 court orders since January 1st alone. In my state of New Jersey, last month, the chief of staff to Deputy Attorney General admitted in my state that in the New Jersey District Court that the government had violated 52 separate court orders, all involving cases where immigrants successfully challenged the legality of their detention. So this, again, is a constitution that you swore an oath to, and one of the most important ideals is that no one is above the law. You are violating the separation of powers, violating court orders, and routinely violating the civil rights of Americans. This is a reckless and out-of-control agency that you are responsible for. You seem to have no situational awareness whatsoever of some of the most egregious examples of Americans being completely attacked, violated, undermined in accordance with our laws by their own government. And this is what is phenomenal to me, is immigration was your president's #1 issue, overwhelmingly popular with the American people. But now it's overwhelmingly unpopular. And it's not because you are deporting dangerous people that everybody here wants out of our country. No, it's because you're going into our schools. You're terrorizing our children. You're detaining children. You're arresting Americans. You're breaking into our homes. You're terrorizing our streets. You're violating our rights to peacefully protest again and again and again.
None of
and then
that
when
is
a court
true.
tells you
None
to
of
stop,
that is true.
and then when a court
You are
tells
trying
you to stop,
to impede
you
us
violate
from enforcing
judges'
the law
orders. Not in
and
a
getting
partisan
dangerous
way,
criminals off of our
Republican
streets
appointed and
so we don't have
Democratic
more
appointed.
families like the ones that are
Don't
sitting
sit
behind
there
me.
and tell me that
Lost
you are
their children. They're
responsible
gone forever.
for the running of your agency when you're not even aware. Either you are utterly incompetent or you are violating laws with impunity. You should step down from your position. If you don't, you should be removed by this president. And if not, Congress should impeach you.
I appreciate the encouragement.
Go! Hold on. Go! Okay, let me stop that. Why is it still playing? Okay, y'all. So y'all heard how he told her at the end that she should be impeached, and that I can't tell if the other video is playing for y'all, but it's playing on my end. But yes, y'all saw how he sat there and told her that she needs to be impeached and removed, and she said, "Thank you for the encouragement." My goodness, y'all. These testimonies are something else. Okay. Now, before we keep going further, on the previous poll, you guys voted that 50-50 regarding whether DHS should remain unfunded. Now regarding the current poll, where we're talking about hold on, let me get this going. Where we're talking about should she be impeached or resign, 54% said no, 46% said yes. Interesting. Yes. So yeah, lots going on with Miss Noem. And I think she had some she had testimony today as well, as the gentleman mentioned about the husband. And she was asked about if she's ever had sexual relationships with some of her staff. So we'll get in that tomorrow for sure. Okay. So before we move along, let me kind of let you guys know. We're going to talk about next the F-15. So I think I told you guys on Monday that several F-15s, American aircraft, was shot down in friendly fire over Kuwait. And so the pilots were able to eject safely, but we were able to see a little footage of what happened once they hit the ground. So I was always wondering, okay, what happened to them? Did they you end up falling out the sky anywhere? And luckily for them, they landed in pretty safe areas. So let's get into that.
Done. محمد ارجع يا محمد
You see how the man came with like a pipe trying to attack the pilot? That's scary for them too.
You're fine? Really? You need something to help you? No problem, you're safe. You're safe. Everything good? No problem. Thank you for helping us. Everything perfect?
شوف لا والله حربية طيارة حربية طيارة حربية شوف فيها واحد شوف هذا المسير يا الربع
شوف نزلوا هذول ايرانيين مدري شنو
شوف لا والله حربية طيارة حربية.
That was nice. He confirmed to make sure that she was okay, letting her know that she was safe.
شوف فيها واحد شوف هذا المسير يا الربع
شوف نزلوا هذول
Yeah, y'all. I mean, I would be out of my mind having to eject from a plane in this foreign country, not knowing where I'm gonna land. But luckily for these two folks, they landed in pretty decent areas. I mean, the man had that pipe trying to attack one of them, but he backed off once he was okay. This is somebody that's here to help us. And the other guy was very, concerned about the female pilot that was ejected. So that was a good thing. But next up, we have a bit of an update regarding the fallen soldiers. I think you guys will know that I think it's still at 6 that have been wounded, that have been unalived in this Operation Epic Fury. A total of 6 that are American. And they released the names of 4 of the 6. So we're gonna get into that. Now, I will say for one of the gentlemen that was unalive, they were able to get in contact with his family, and I saw a video where where they talked to his dad and his sister, and the sister is still in disbelief that her brother, was unalived and what happened. I believe that they were at an air operations center there, and their unit got attacked, if you will. So let's go ahead and get the update on that.
Breaking news on the war in Iran. 4 of the 6 U.S. service members who were killed have been identified. These are their pictures just into our newsroom. All were assigned to the 103rd Sustainment Command in Des Moines, Iowa. The victims died in a drone strike in Kuwait.
Meanwhile, new video into our newsroom this afternoon shows a drone strike hitting near the U.S. consulate in Dubai. ABC News has verified this video circulating online. No one was hurt, but today Israel stepped up airstrikes on Iranian missile launchers. President Trump also took questions in public for the first time since the start of the war. Our Rob Hayes is live in the newsroom with all the major headlines today. Rob?
Colleen, 787 people are confirmed dead in Iran since the fighting began. And today, U.S. officials say they are preparing to dramatically intensify their attacks. This as the Senate prepares to vote tomorrow on a resolution that looks to pull the U.S. out of the fighting with Iran. The U.S. Central Command releasing this video of American missile launches around the clock, targeting key Iranian military sites. The Trump administration contradicting itself on the reason for attacking Iran. President Trump today saying he made the call to beat Iran to the punch.
I think they were going to attack first, and I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand.
But just yesterday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio suggested Israel made the decision to attack and the U.S. followed.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces.
Today, Rubio denied that reasoning, saying it was President Trump's call. The mixed messaging sparking criticism on Capitol Hill.
Which one is it, Donald Trump? Regime change, nuclear weapons, missiles? An imminent threat to the homeland, or a preemptive strike to stop future attacks on the region?
Even well-known Republicans are slamming the administration's attack on Iran.
It's pretty clear that we're not going to gain anything more. And how do we know that? Because no one has explained what we're there to gain.
Frustration with the war is also building outside the U.S. The U.K. has only offered the U.S. limited access to some of its military bases. And Spain has completely barred U.S. military aircraft from its facilities, sparking Trump to threaten a total trade embargo against the NATO ally and saying he would do as he pleases with Spain's property.
We could use their base if we want. We could just fly in and use it. Nobody's going to tell us not to use it.
Meantime, the U.S. State Department is urging Americans to leave 14 Middle East countries. But with commercial flights grounded, more than 1,500 embassy employees and their families are stranded. Now, those Americans stranded in the Middle East may be coming home soon. The U.S. State Department today saying it's planning to send military and charter flights to fly those people back to the U.S.
So I did see where they have brought back, I think, 1,000 plus folks back. I want to say between yesterday and today. So they are getting the people out. Caroline Levitt, the press secretary, she gave an update regarding, getting the Americans who are over there out safely back to the U.S., but they're not, they're not providing like any flight schedules, of course. They don't want people to know when they're leaving and coming. They may try to attack a plane full of Americans in it. So, yeah, but they do have things in place. I think they say you have to go to the Department of State website, put your name on a list, and they'll contact you to help you figure out how to get out of there and get back to the States. And it's free of charge to those folks over there. But what we got in the chat here? We have Osiris. That's Osiris. Welcome to the check-in. Saying World War III. Could be. We have Jamel Weeks, 8022. Welcome to the check-in, and thank you for the help with the CTA. Yes, if you're here listening, watching, please like, share, comment, subscribe, support the channel. It's free. Thank you. And Jamel is saying, pray for all the families who've lost loved ones on all sides. Yes. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing that's the one thing about this kind of a thing. There's gonna be a loss of life on all the sides, So that's unfortunate. We have some guy, O4D. Welcome to the check-in. And he says, I pray that cereal boxes get larger. He also says, here's a good rule to live by. If it's on TV, it's a lie. All right. We got some words of wisdom from some guy. Bull Monkey says UK has announced that the drones fired at British Cyprus didn't come from Iran. They cut short of saying they were US made. Oh, okay. I hadn't heard that. Okay. Understood. So next up, we're going to see some of the folks that are stranded over there at the UAE. Yeah, I don't know why this wasn't, well, I guess they couldn't. Well, I guess what Caroline was saying is that they had on their do not visit list like different condition levels that were changed over the last couple of months. So, I mean, people went over there and now they're having to figure out how to get back home. So, there you have that. But let's go ahead and see what they're talking about regarding. Okay, no, we're not doing that. Wait a minute. We're going to go into the Trump update that happened yesterday. That's what's next. Sorry about that, y'all. Oh, we have Jonathan Payne here. Welcome to the live stream, saying hello. But yeah, we're going to check out what Trump had to say yesterday regarding what was going on with Operation Epic Fury.
Any questions, please?
Mr. President, did Israel force your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? Did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand. You see,
let me say that. So they asked him, did Israel force his hand? And he says no. And I want to say Rubio had made a different claim where he was saying that hand may have been forced, if you will. So that's why they were saying in some of these different videos about, oh well, they're changing the story as to what drove this to happen, this war to start occurring. So lots of different stories being presented from different people in these high positions. They're not in sync. So that's kind of what's going on with that. But let's get back to what the president has to say.
we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people, people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. But Israel was ready and we were ready. And we've had a very, very powerful impact because virtually everything they have has been knocked out now. Their missile count is going way down. Amazingly, they're hitting countries that were, you know, let's call them neutral, right? They lived together for a long time. I think they were surprised. I was surprised. I think and now those countries are all fighting against them and fighting strongly against them. Someday they'll write a story and they'll say why they did that, but they hit countries that had nothing to do with what's going on. They were sort of leaving everything alone. All of a sudden they had missiles shot in, which shows you the level of evil that we're dealing with. They'll hit people that were actually at least somewhat friendly, and they had no problems with it. Also hitting only civilian places, hotels and apartment buildings, and we're hitting them where it is much more appropriate. We're hitting them very hard. And the big scale hitting goes now. They no longer have air protection. They no longer have any detection facilities at all left. And so they're gonna be in for a lot of hurt. These are bad people. These are people that killed. I guess it's 35,000. It's coming out 35,000 over the last 3 weeks. Protesters, 35,000 violently killed. So these are bad people, and the leader of the pack is gone. And as you know, 49 people were taken out in the first hit, and I guess there was another hit today on the new leadership, and it looks like that was pretty substantial also. So they're getting hit very hard, and we'll see what happens. A lot of people are coming forward. A lot of the people you would least suspect want to quit. They want to have immunity. They're asking for immunity, and probably at some point they'll be dropping, as you would say, laying down their guns. We'll see what happens. In the meantime, we're just continuing to go forward. Our military is the #1 in the world by far, and we are. Everything's big in my book. Venezuela was big. This is big. The original hit, Midnight Hammer, was big. Everything you view is big, but it's not considered very big by some standards, by some of our standards. We have a military like no other military that's ever been built.
Yeah, please. Mr. President, what's the worst case scenario that you have planned for in Iran?
Well, I don't know if there's a worst case. We have them very much beaten militarily from the military standpoint. They're still lobbing some missiles. At some point, they won't even be able to do that because we're hitting all of their carriers. We're hitting all of their missile stock. You know, they built up all these missiles over the last few years. They had a lot of them. They've shot a lot of them, and we're knocking out a lot. I guess the worst case would be we do this, and then somebody takes over who's as bad as the previous person, right? That could happen. We don't want that to happen. That would probably be the worst. You go through this, and then in 5 years you realize you put somebody in who was no better. So we'd like to see somebody in there that's going to bring it back for the people. And we'll see what happens with the people. You know, they have their chance. And we've said, don't do it yet. If you're going to go out and protest, don't do it yet. It's very dangerous out there. A lot of bombs are being dropped. But I would say that would be about the worst.
Do you have someone in mind right now? Because you said all the people you did have in mind have been taken out. What do you think?
Well, most of the people we had in mind are dead. So, you know, we had some in mind from that group that is dead. And now we have another group. They may be dead also, based on reports. So I guess you have a third wave coming in. Pretty soon we're not going to know anybody. But we have, I mean, Venezuela was so incredible because we did the attack and we kept government totally intact. And we have Delcy, who's been very good. We have the whole chain of command, and they've been, you know, look, the relationship's been great. We've taken out 100 million barrels of oil already, and a big part of that goes to them, and a big part goes to us. And it's been great. We paid for the war many times over, and we're going to be running the oil. And Venezuela is going to make more money than they ever made, and that's great for the people. The relationship has been great. It's been seamless. Nobody's actually ever seen anything like it. If you look at Iraq, where very stupidly everybody was fired, the generals were fired, the military was fired, the police were fired, the fire departments were fired, and all of the government workers were fired. So after, you know, people would call, they had no idea. And by the way, ISIS was formed. That's where ISIS came from, all of the fired people. We don't believe in that. So we'll see what happens. But First, we have to finish off the military.
What do you think? Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, is he an option at all in your mind?
I guess he is. Some people like him, and we haven't been thinking about too much about that. It would seem to me that somebody from within maybe would be more appropriate. I've said that. He looks like a very nice person, but it would seem to me that somebody that's there, that's currently popular, if there's such a person. But we have people like that. We have people that were more moderate. You know, these were radical lunatics, and you know what they get? They get nothing. All they do is kill people.
Mr. President, what exactly was the imminent?
You've asked, not your turn. Not your turn, please.
Mr. President, you've been to take the heat off the Europeans to potentially help you. Mark Rutte called on the allies to also help you.
What does that mean?
Well, you have to ask Mark Rutte. He said not as part of NATO, but to be helpful to you in this.
Well, some of the European nations have been helpful, and some haven't. And I'm, very surprised. Germany's been great. He's been terrific. Others have been very good, terrific. I think that the head of NATO, Mark, is fantastic. Okay, Mark Rutte. I think he's fantastic. But some of the European, like Spain, has been terrible. In fact, I told Scott to cut off all dealings with Spain. Spain, first of all, it started when every European nation, at my request, paid 5%, which they should be doing. And everybody was enthusiastic about it, Germany, everybody. And Spain didn't do it. And now Spain actually said that we can't use their bases, and that's all right. We could use their base if we want. We could just fly in and use it. Nobody's going to tell us not to use it, but we don't have to. But they were unfriendly. And so I told him we don't want to. Spain has absolutely nothing that we need other than great people. They have great people, but they don't have great leadership. And as you know, they were the only country that in NATO would not agree to go up to 5%. I don't think they would have agreed to go up to anything. They wanted to keep it at 2%, and they don't pay the 2%. So we're going to cut off all trade with Spain. We don't want anything to do with Spain.
So yeah, that's what he had to say yesterday. And so of course everything is moving swiftly, right? So he had an update today. So I'm trying to y'all, why I keep getting this error message when I'm trying to type and tell you guys welcome to the check-in. So welcome to the check-in for those who are just tuned in watching. Right now we are looking at some updates regarding Operation Epic Fury. President Trump just made this speech yesterday. We do have one today that he gave as well. I'm trying to multitask and type, but my tab won't let me be great, y'all. My goodness. I get one tap in and here it go. Okay, bam, I got it typed. I typed it in, yes. So yes, welcome to the check-in. We are catching up on things going with Operation Epic Fury. To say here, and I am trying to get caught up with it. So we have Bull Monkey. He was saying that it backfired when the public realized what was happening, and he told me I needed to look at what was said before. Maybe no, maybe it didn't show up on my YouTube, but you said before. That's probably why I am not understanding it. Okay, let me go up here and see what I can find. Okay, that's what it was. So, Bull Monkey, I could not see your comment on my YouTube stream. Maybe I need to set it to where I see all the comments. Okay, let's try that. Then that way I can know what's going on. Okay, here we go. Yes, now I see everything. Okay, so Bull Monkey had said during World War II, the UK were evacuating kids on naval ships and using the kids on the ships as human shields. So when the ships torpedoed, it was hoped that it would increase the public's appetite for war. I did not know that. User BW3 says Iran is only hitting U.S. bases and Jew Zionist bases. They are not aiming at citizens like the Jews are. Okay. Yeah, I remember seeing today where I forgot the man's position, but he's with Iran. He was saying that they're pretty much targeting like what you just said, and if the Americans move to somewhere else, then that's kind of on them, is what I took from the message that he gave. We have, let's see, user BW3 saying, go unto Al Jazeera, New and TRT. They are alive, and you see the real story, not the poop that the imbecile is spewing. Okay. We got Osiris saying, I always respect the president. We got Tyrone Thompson here. Welcome to the check-in. And then we have Bull Monkey telling Osiris to get a grip. Nobody is automatically granted respect without merit. Okay. Let's see. User BW3 says Spain was very friendly in saying no, and the US cannot just use country airports at free will. And then we have someone saying Operation Epic fail. Okay. So the next thing we have here is we have the update from today. Let's go ahead and get into that because this stuff is changing and moving by the minute, right? Here we go.
All right, we are back, and you can see that President Trump is now seated at this roundtable that's covering artificial intelligence, AI, and affordable energy around all of this. A lot of big tech executives there. The president has said they are going to pay for the expansion, but he's talking about Iran right now. Let's listen in.
And if we didn't terminate the worst deal, one of the worst deals ever made, the Obama nuclear deal, I call it the Obama nuclear deal, where he gave everything to Iran, including a nuclear weapon. It was a road to a nuclear weapon. Bad things would have happened 4 years ago because they would have had a weapon 4 years ago if I didn't terminate that deal. So we're in a very strong position now, and their leadership is just rapidly going. Everybody that seems to want to be a leader, they end up dead. And it's an amazing thing that's taking place before your eyes, because for 47 years we were pushed around, and we shouldn't have been. And I think I can say, and you see it as well as I do, you see the tremendous progress that's being made. Their missiles are being wiped out rapidly. Their launchers are being wiped out. They're attacking their neighbors. They're attacking their, in some cases, allies, or not so long ago allies. And, it's really a nation that was out of control, and they would have used it on us if we let them, if we waited any longer. A big factor was Soleimani, the killing of Soleimani in my first term. And maybe the biggest factor was the rebuilding of the military in my first term. And then the B-2s hit the, and I use the word obliterate because it was a complete obliteration of their nuclear potential. And that set them back very, very seriously. If we didn't hit within 2 weeks, they would have had a nuclear weapon. If we didn't do the B-2 attack a number of months ago, they would have a nuclear weapon. And when crazy people have nuclear weapons, bad things happen. So we're in very good shape now. I want to let you know that, and we will continue forward. But it's a great display of military strength, and I'm very proud to have, with some of the people in the room, both senators and congressmen, we rebuilt, and women, we rebuilt our military during the first term, and we're using it a little bit more than I thought we would have to. Venezuela worked out really great. We have a wonderful relationship with the president and the various representatives, and we're taking out hundreds of millions of barrels of oil, and that goes to our benefit and to Venezuela's benefit. They'll be doing better than they've ever done before, and we will get a big piece of that, and we'll also make life wonderful for the people of Venezuela who have been very, very badly hit. So that's a lot said in a short period of time, but you can witness it for yourself.
Be sure to.
Okay, that's the update that he had for today, y'all, regarding what's going on. Yeah. So I saw where Jonathan says, don't believe everything you hear. Understood. We just listen to what the people putting out there for us, getting a better understanding of the perspective and what's really going on. But what I have next is an update regarding them sinking a ship that had not been done since like World War II, something like that. So what does Bull Monkey have here? He says, laugh out loud, only bad people use nuclear weapons. The U.S. is the only country to have used a nuclear weapon. Yeah. Yeah. So let's go ahead and check out this next video real fast. But about them sinking this warship. And I believe that's what was it user BW3 that was saying that about the ship that was sunk? I'm thinking they were talking about what happened today, but okay, yeah, that was user BW3 saying the ship was in another water and they went out. Okay, the ship was in another water and they went out of their way to attack it. It was not even in Iranian water. And then he or she mentioned they took out 185 young schoolgirls. You ever heard about that? So I don't know if he responded to that, but yes, let's go ahead and get into this.
Now to new developments from the war in the Middle East, which is escalating by the day.
This as major questions surround the reason for going to war and why efforts were never made to get Americans out of the region before the conflict. A U.S. submarine sank an Iranian warship in international waters with a torpedo. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth claims it was the first enemy attack of its kind since World War II. It is not clear how many crew members were aboard that sunken vessel. Sri Lankan authorities say they've recovered at least 87 bodies and rescued 32 people.
Also, 4 of the 6 American troops killed in the war have been identified. 35-year-old Captain Cody Cork of Florida, 42-year-old Sergeant First Class Noah Tjens of Nebraska, 39-year-old Sergeant First Class Nicole Amore of Minnesota, and 20-year-old Sergeant Declan Cody of Iowa. They died during an Iranian attack in Kuwait.
Meantime, many Americans are stuck and unable to evacuate the Middle East. The State Department says it is arranging flights, but the frustration is also highlighting concerns about why U.S. citizens were not evacuated before the war. This comes amid new and relentless strikes, the latest tonight from.
So one thing about it is that they are having, I guess, congressional sessions about the war. A lot of the congressmen feel that, they should have been asked about the war before it was, initiated. So a lot is going on with that currently. And so we'll get in that more, I guess, tomorrow. They have this thing called a war resolution thing that they're trying to get moved through. And so, yes, yeah, that's a big thing. And yeah, so apparently, as you guys heard him say, he felt that they were going to strike first. So he went ahead and did what he had to do, he being the president. So that's how that went, y'all. What do we have here in the chat? We have Bull Monkey saying, imagine your son, daughter being sent to their unaliving by a draft dodger. Unbelievable. Oh, a draft dodger, got you. Yeah, I mean, when I saw, that young man and his family, the one who one of the 4 that was killed or up front, 4 out the 6, I think he was like going to be 21 in April, is what his sister was saying. So yeah, what did he say? What did the president say? He said that there will be more. So yeah, I'm interested to see like what happens with Congress and what they're doing right now as far as having all these sessions and putting out their speeches about how they should have been consulted and trying to, I guess, pull America out of the war. I'm interested to see how all that works and what's going to happen with that, to be honest. Next up, I have a video regarding what's going on with the Iraqis and their ground offense. Let's get into that.
This just in, it's big. A U.S. official telling Fox thousands of Iraqi Kurds have launched a ground offensive in Iran. Decimated, destroyed, defeated. All words the Pentagon used to describe Iran's various military forces on day 5 of Operation Epic Fury. Moments ago, President Trump touting its success.
So we're in a very strong position now, and their leadership is just rapidly going. Everybody that seems to want to be a leader, they end up dead. And it's an amazing thing that's taking place. Their missiles are being wiped out rapidly. Their launchers are being wiped out. They're attacking their neighbors. They're attacking their, in some cases, allies, or not so long ago allies. And, you know, it's really a nation that was out of control, and they would have used it on us if we let them.
The Secretary of War says it's just the beginning.
We are just getting started. We are accelerating, not decelerating. Iran's capabilities are evaporating by the hour, while American strength grows fiercer, smarter, and utterly dominant. More bombers and more fighters are arriving just today. We can sustain this fight easily for as long as we need to.
The White House reporting more than 17,000 Americans have returned home safely from the Middle East and repeating the president's motivation for the operation.
This is a rogue terrorist regime that has been threatening the United States, our allies, and our people for 47 years. This is a president who has been remarkably consistent on this issue, that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon. And the president tried peace through diplomacy, exhaustively and extensively. He and his team gave it their best go, and the president ultimately came to the determination of that peace was not a pursuable path. The Iranian regime, they want death, they want destruction, they want to kill Americans, and that's unacceptable to this president. It's intolerable to him as commander-in-chief.
Here's the conflict by the numbers so far. The U.S. has hit over 2,000 Iranian targets and destroyed more than 20 Iranian naval vessels. Iran has fired more than 500 ballistic missiles and over 2,000 drones. Reuters reports that defense executives are planning to visit the White House to talk about accelerating weapons production amid fears of diminishing stockpiles. But that is a fear that today was dismissed by General Kane.
The throttle is coming up, as the Secretary said, as opposed to ramping down. This will allow us to maintain consistent pressure on the adversary over the coming days, disrupt their launch timelines, and impose cost every day around the clock. I know there have been a lot of questions about munitions. We have sufficient precision munitions for the task at hand, both on the offense and defense.
Meantime, Israel's Air Force has struck in Iran with over 5,000 munitions since the start of the operation. The impact on Iran's stockpile is already tangible. Its ballistic missile launches down 88% since day one, and down 23% in just the last 24 hours. One-way attack drone shots are down 73%. A key objective in this conflict for President Trump, wiping out Iran's Navy. Today, it appears he is closer to that goal after an American submarine sunk Iran's prized ship with a torpedo. It's one of the few instances of a sub doing so since World War II.
Interesting. So yeah, I want to say, who mentioned about the sub? Was that Jonathan? Someone mentioned about the submarine that had. Yeah, okay, it was Jonathan. I was right. Yep, they just mentioned it. They just confirmed it. Oh yeah. And then we have Bull Monkey saying that Ayatollah was 86. And then Julie Phillips is saying, like a bunch of kids arguing over who has the basketball court at the park. Lord, not the basketball court. Okay, so we're gonna keep abreast of what's going on over there in this Operation Epic Fury. Like I said, every day, all day, it's something new that's happening with this. So we're gonna keep an eye on that, and we're going to kind of look at some of the after effects, right? The aftermath. Like I was saying before, you have all these folks who were over there visiting in Dubai. Now there was a missile that landed in Dubai, but it didn't hit the airport. But as you know, they have, closed the airspace surrounding Dubai, which is why you can't get a lot of airplanes in or out. So you have Americans over there stranded, but it just said in the bill they got like maybe 17,000 out the other day. So I didn't know they had that many people over there in Dubai or in this Middle East area over there visiting and living. But let's go ahead and get into what's going on with the people being stranded.
Correspondent Matt Gubman, because you talk about civilians, for many, it's a desperate effort to get out of here.
Yeah. And you and I, Tony, were out here about an hour ago watching as
U.S. warships fired Tomahawk missiles over our head. We saw Iranian missiles coming in. There are warplanes crisscrossing the sky. But what is not flying are commercial airliners, meaning that millions of people are stranded in this conflict zone.
As the U.S., Israel, and Iran trade attacks, millions of civilians across the Middle East find themselves caught in the crossfire. In Iran, the Red Crescent says nearly 800 have died in 4 days of bombings. And today, in the city of Minab, a mass funeral was held for what the regime claims were girls killed in an elementary school. Rows of graves seen awaiting coffins.
I don't think war is inevitable.
IDF spokesman Nadav Shoshani denied Israel is responsible.
We're doing everything we can to be as accurate as we can and making sure that we are not targeting the Iranian civilians because we're not at war with them.
This comes as the U.S. State Department is telling the roughly 1 million American citizens in 14 countries to leave immediately and says help is on the way.
It's going to take a little time because we don't control the airspace closures. That said, there may be more people out there that need help. We need to know who you are.
But with most planes grounded, many are finding escape nearly impossible. Kat Spitzer is stuck in Dubai.
Everybody is scared. We don't want to be forgotten. We just want any way to get out.
This has been the wildest trip of my life.
American Tamar Rubenstein is pregnant with twins. She's taking a bus from Israel to Egypt, then flying to Athens, and then Munich, and then to Chicago. It'll take her 2.5 days.
Why not just wait until the missiles end and stay in a safe place?
There's such a lack of clarity, so I didn't want to get to the point where I wouldn't be cleared to travel anymore.
That's a tough road. Now, Secretary Rubio has said that the U.S. is now chartering planes to try to bring Americans home. But, Tony, so many of those travelers that we spoke to said that the State Department just hasn't moved fast enough to help them.
You can understand their frustration. Matt, thank you very much.
I mean, I guess they were surprised, too, waking up on Saturday morning and seeing all this going on. And they didn't have all this figured out beforehand. As far as like getting the Americans out that were over there visiting and living there and all of that, they had started attacking some of the American embassies in the area as well, from what I recall hearing on yesterday. But here's another video of a person who is over there on vacation, and I'll let you hear what you have to say, and then I'll come back and give you my thoughts. We'll do it that way.
So what's your thought? I mean, you just have to sit and wait?
Lots of sitting and waiting, lots of uncertainty. We haven't heard anything. And so we're just waiting for the shoe to drop almost. We don't know when we can get out. We know that there's still no flights in or out. We were able to find cheaper hotel accommodations. And so that's where we are right now.
So I understand you actually heard and saw the missiles that hit near the airport over the weekend. Talk to me about what that was like.
We did. I'm with a large group, so of course we're out touring and sightseeing. And as we were out sightseeing and actually leaving from somewhere, we looked up and saw a missile falling out of the sky. And of course, in that moment, we've never seen anything like that. We're all from Chicago, Illinois, where we don't see missiles in the sky. It's not the norm for us. So we don't know the process for that. We didn't know what to do, but to just get out from that area and try to shelter and get to shelter.
Yeah, did you know what was going on? Were you getting alerts on your phones? What did you do in those moments after you realized what was happening?
We were getting some alerts, but we did not have the full story. Throughout that day, it was so touch and go, kind of just hearing explosions, but asking the locals, hey, what's going on? Should we be afraid? Is this something that happens all the time? And they kind of just brushed it off. But like I said, being out of our element, we wanted to know more. We continued to research. And once we found out what was going on, our first thing we did was contact the U.S. Embassy for more information.
I appreciated your opening statement and your prioritizing some of these issues.
One second. That's crazy how you over there on vacation and then you out sightseeing and then you seeing a missile, in the sky dropping, and you talking about, well, is this normal? Ma'am, you on vacation and you seeing missiles in the sky and you got to ask if that's normal? No, ma'am, it is not normal. But I hope that those ladies, were able to enjoy their trip up to that point and they were able to get up out of there. That's what I'm hoping for, because that is insanity. Okay. So my video is ahead of me, right? So we have Miss Dorothy Tackett here in the chat. Welcome to the check-in, Miss Dorothy Tackett. And we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to go into the deposition for Epstein, the Hillary Clinton clips. Let me tell y'all something. Miss Hillary Clinton is about, I think she's either 78 or 79. Miss Hillary Clinton, former First Lady, former Secretary of State. This lady, she still got her faculties about herself. Okay. She's still quick with it. She's very sharp. Okay. At her age of 78. Okay. So I want you guys to see this first clip of her regarding the questioning of her and her deposition. It was like maybe I think 6 hours, and they had to stop because someone released a photo, but she was gracious enough to come back and continue the I'm gonna call it the interrogation. But I feel like I said the other day, I feel like a lot is just to embarrass her because of what her husband did in his past, is my opinion. Because if she didn't even know this man, Epstein, wasn't on the island, wasn't on the private jet, like what is she here for? You know? But we'll get into that in 1 second. What do we have in the chat? We have Boomlucky saying used to be US and UK air bases in Oman as well. Not sure how many military are still there. I do not have a clue about that. I haven't heard of Oman. Boomlucky saying, have you been doing your research on OBS? Okay, what is OBS? I should not have removed that. Is it gonna kick me off? I hope it doesn't kick me off. I have not looked into OBS. Let me figure out what that is. What does OBS stand for? OBS. Okay. Julie Phillips says, why would you go on vacation with everything going on right now? That's a good thing. I mean, once I saw what happened over there when they got the president in Venezuela, I said, let me not leave America right now. Because you can go somewhere and end up not being able to get back home. That's happened twice in the last 3 months with the whole thing with Venezuela and now with this. So yeah, I'm with you, Julie. Then Tyrone says, I hate to say this, it's like taking a trip into a hurricane. Basically, you're gonna have PTSD from that. Oh yeah. So I wrote down OBS so I could look into that. Let me check, make sure I can understand my own scribbling. Okay, let's get into this first video here regarding Miss Hillary Clinton and her deposition. And y'all tell me what you guys think in the chat, because you can tell that she didn't want to be there. Is this a waste of my time? Why am I here? That's the kind of vibes I got. Like, why are you asking me about my husband? He'll be here tomorrow. She was on that type of time. Let's get into it.
Believe this way? Have you believed this way for some time?
Have I what?
Have you believed what you believed in your opening statement for some time?
Yes, I have.
How long have you had those beliefs or held those beliefs in your opening statement?
Very long.
In 1998, you had those same beliefs?
Yes.
2005?
Yes.
2008?
Yes.
2012?
Sure.
2016?
Mm-hmm.
2020?
Mm-hmm.
2024 to present day, you've held these beliefs the whole time?
Yes, I have.
Have you always believed that women abused by powerful men should be believed?
I know where you're going with this, and I have nothing to say about anything in the past. I'm here to answer questions about this investigation.
So do you believe that women who are abused by Epstein and an Epstein circle of associates should be believed?
I think that many of them have made very credible accusations.
Have you always thought that, do you think that women abused by powerful men should get justice?
I think that they should have their time to be evaluated, and where there is adequate evidence, they should certainly get justice, and perpetrators should be held to account.
The question was, have you always thought that women abused by powerful men should get justice?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I agree. Are you aware that, you were aware, I think you said this earlier, that Jeffrey Epstein was convicted in 2008 for procuring a child for prostitution and soliciting a prostitute, correct?
that's what the charges were, yes.
And you were aware of that in 2008?
I don't recall that I was aware then.
And in 2008, you were a U.S. Senator still?
I was.
Would you say that Jeffrey Epstein is one of the world's most prolific sex traffickers?
From what we know, he certainly engaged in his predatory activities for a long period of time.
Would you say he's one of the world's most prolific sex traffickers?
I don't know what to compare it to. There are terrible sex trafficking rings all over the world.
And you said you were Secretary of State from 2009 to 2013?
Mm-hmm.
And you state your agency prioritized combating sex trafficking internationally, correct?
That's correct.
During your time as Secretary of State, did you or the state receive any intelligence cables or briefings mentioning Epstein's foreign travel, pedophile island, or his network of pedophiles and sex trafficking?
Not that I am aware of, no.
How did you miss it? If he's, I believe, one of the most prolific sex traffickers in the world, you were Secretary of State, how did you miss it?
Well, that would have been a matter of the Justice Department, not the State Department.
But in your opening statement, and your statements earlier, in your opening statement, you stated that Secretary Rubio should be called to testify. And you said that he has, and the administration has, quote, abandoned survivors. Using the same logic, you were Secretary of State during a time period after Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of being a pedophile and soliciting children for sex. Why then did you, quote, using your own logic, abandon survivors?
What is the question, please?
I followed her comment. First of all, we focused on whether there were laws that made sex trafficking, sexual slavery, domestic violence, other abuses of women on the books in countries. And then we tried to evaluate, were those laws being implemented? And were judges appropriately trained and briefed about how to implement those laws? Were governments taking them seriously? We looked at the broad institutional approach to these very serious abuses.
Would you say the U.S. government at that time, during this time period, was appropriate with the way that it handled Epstein?
I don't think that you could say that was true about any of the government's prosecutorial efforts, starting with the Southern District of Florida and Alex Acosta and all those who basically gave him a sweetheart deal. And then I think going up the chain, there was very little attention paid that should have been paid. But we had laws on the books. They were not being implemented. But that was not within my purview, because what we were looking at is what's the institutional structure, and can we do more to make sure countries take it seriously? Our country had laws on the books.
So
this man was not held to account.
If it was not in your purview when you were Secretary of State, then why is it today in Secretary Rubio's purview?
Because what's happened is that the office that was actually following what was going on around the world has been decimated. 70% of the staff is gone. It's impossible to carry out the functions of that office if you don't have a critical number of people. So my question would be to Secretary Rubio, is there more that can be done?
I'm running out of time here. You were clothed with immense power as Secretary of State. You've stated on the record in your opening statement that child sex trafficking in general, human trafficking, trafficking of all kinds was a priority. You were clothed with immense power. Your husband was clothed with immense power. And until you got this subpoena, and until these files were out in the open, you did nothing to try to effectuate all of these things. You say that should have been done. Is that correct?
No, it's totally incorrect. I mean, all of your assumptions are ones that I reject.
When you saw photos of your husband in a hot tub laying on a beach and getting massaged by other women, and you knew that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in some of these trips and these things, did it concern you at all?
I'm here not to offer my opinions. I'm here to answer specific questions to the best of my ability.
When you saw your husband in these photos with young women being massaged, what went through your mind?
I am not going to speculate.
You didn't have any feelings about young women massaging your husband?
I am not going to offer opinions or speculation about anything that I have no context for and was not there.
After you learned that Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of sex crimes with kids, did any of these photos of your husband with women being massaged on the beach, did it concern you?
I have no context for even answering that question. And I think, obviously the innuendo, all the rest of it
I'm asking a black and white question. I'm not putting any leading statements into it or adjectives. Did you do anything to determine what was happening in those images or on those trips that once you saw these photos, once you realized Jeffrey Epstein was a convicted sex offender of children, did you do anything to determine what was happening on these trips with your husband?
I don't find any of your questions to be relevant to the investigation.
Well, it is relevant if a former president was traveling around with young women.
Well, you'll have a
alone
chance.
with them.
You'll have a chance to talk to him tomorrow.
You said this morning you did not solicit funds from Jeffrey Epstein, correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Did anyone solicit funds from Jeffrey Epstein on your behalf?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did you ever invite Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell to any of your political fundraisers?
I did not personally invite them to my political fundraisers.
Did anyone personally invite them on your behalf?
I do not know.
Is the purpose of a political fundraiser to solicit funds?
You would know that it is.
Okay, and you stated this morning you've never communicated with a Sarah Kay, correct?
I do not know who Sarah Kay is.
Okay, she is a councilwoman from New Rochelle, which is about how many miles from here?
Not very far away.
20 to 25?
I have no idea.
I have an exhibit I would like to enter. This is an email dated September 30th, 2014. Am I allowed to enter an exhibit?
Yes, ma'am. This will be Exhibit 13, I believe. Majority Exhibit 13.
Okay, it's from September 30th, 2014.
Can you please provide the witness with a copy?
Okay. You have a copy of it?
Yeah.
You guys have it?
Y'all heard them questions?
I appreciate it.
And can you read me the subject line of the email?
Following up event with Hillary Clinton and Congresswoman Lowy.
Do you know who Congresswoman Lowy is?
She was our congresswoman here for many years.
And who is the email from?
Someone named Sarah Kay.
Above that, you have that very top one. Okay. All right, from Sarah Kay, and it's redacted on who it was sent to. Can you read me the email?
Okay, thank you very much for the prompt reply. Hi, Sarah. Thank you for the invitation, but unfortunately, Jeffrey will not be able to attend. Thanks so much for speaking with me just now. Attached, please find the invitation and response card for the event we spoke about with Hillary Clinton and Congresswoman Lowy at the Harvard Club. That was a fundraiser, I believe, for Congresswoman Lowy that I attended to support her, is my recollection.
Okay. And this is an email, this is an invitation to the fundraiser where you were there.
Do you have any idea if the Epstein referred to is the Jeffrey Epstein? There's a lot of people named Epstein in this area.
This is in the DOJ files.
I have no knowledge of it.
It says Mr. and Mrs. Epstein.
Yeah, I have no knowledge of this.
Okay, so it could be a different Jeffrey Epstein.
You're showing me an email from someone who I don't recall knowing about a fundraiser that wasn't for me but was for Congresswoman Lowy. I have no information.
Okay.
I went to the fundraiser to support my friend Nita Lowy.
All right.
Excuse me, can I interrupt?
I have
There
another.
are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying from inside this room. Can you please advise me as to whether or not that's permissible and consistent with the rules, particularly given that we have asked for a public hearing? If there are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying, can you please explain how that
I'm
can
done
occur?
with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home. This is just typical behavior.
We will go off the record.
Oh, for heaven's
So I would
sake.
like to understand how that's permissible.
Before the hearing was.
It doesn't
Excuse
matter.
me.
We all are abiding by the same rules.
I will take that down.
Yeah,
So I would like to take a break at this moment.
Yeah,
and I'd like-
Boy, Miss Hillary Clinton, she let him have it at the end. I mean, the way she answered them questions, my Lord. Like, she is sick of these people. She's sick of her husband. She's just sick of all this stuff. Miss Hillary Clinton was just like, you know what? I'm over it. And then to add insult to injury, you were here releasing pictures when she asked to do a public hearing. My goodness. This is the thing. Hillary Clinton been married probably about 50 years. Okay? 60 years. She know what her husband is up to, what he has been up to. She know. And she has made peace with that. That's how she's still married to this man. So you up here asking her, well, how do you feel about your husband being massaged by, young women? Like, what they got to do with the Epstein files? Now, I will say, 'cause I looked at President Clinton's interview, testimony, if you will. We'll have that tomorrow. And he was asked about it, and he was like, well, that's what people did. They would have people on the private plane, on the boat, to give you a massage. When I tell you he played that game, he played that role, he playing so well. It was crazy. So we have 2026 H1X, welcome to the check-in, that said, should Hillary ask about Mace's multiple failed marriages? I mean, yeah, I didn't know who Mace was, but yeah, if she got the knowledge, I would ask, because at this point, they just wasting her time. Now, David Amalia, welcome to the check-in. But why are you saying she should be locked up and you calling her a troll? What did she do? Let me know. I genuinely want to know. And as far as what I got here in the poll, I asked y'all, should she be asked about her husband getting a massage? And 51% said yes, 49% said no. Oh my goodness. Okay. So, all right, that's what the poll said. I still don't understand what they got to do. I don't understand why she even being deposed, to be honest. But we're gonna continue on. We have another video of her because she was on a roll. I think she was more entertaining on the stand than her husband was, in my opinion. Okay, so we're gonna get into that. She had a little bit of a heated interaction with Mace. Okay, let me find out what David Amalia is saying. He said, read my earlier post. Let me find out what he said. Yeah, I'm gonna scroll up. Hillary the troll, lock her up. He said, hold on. Okay. Where is it at? Where is the early post that David had here? Bear with me, y'all. I'm trying to find it. Now I'm getting dizzy with all the scrolling I'm doing. I don't see it. I'm gonna go ahead and put the next video, and then I'll keep trying to look to find that. Let's get into it.
You asked the question. I'm going to answer your question.
Now you're going to yell
This
at
was
me?
what I spent
You're
my
going to yell at
time
me.
doing.
I'm a
I
survivor
spent
trying to look out for other survivors, trying to
and
get to the
I
bottom
was
of it.
taking care
You
of
waited
the
6
people
months
who
to
lost
get here today.
3,000
6 months,
lives.
and now
Yield to Ms. Mace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, thank you for returning this afternoon. Secretary Clinton, is your husband someone the committee should investigate?
My husband will be here tomorrow. You'll have a chance to ask him questions.
So my question is your husband is someone this committee should investigate?
Asked and answered.
Apparently you are. You've subpoenaed him. He's going to be here tomorrow.
In your testimony before the break, you discussed why you believe President Trump should testify before our committee due to a, quote, pattern of behavior, end quote. You testified that a pattern of behavior warrants accountability. So I want to make sure I understand your standard correctly. The pattern of behavior you describe includes being held civilly liable, indictments, sexually deviant behavior, correct?
Yes.
In 1998, your husband was found civilly liable for sexual misconduct with Paula Jones and settled for $850,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
By your standard of pattern of behavior, should your husband testify before this committee?
He is testifying tomorrow.
On December 19th, 1998, President Clinton was impeached on charges of perjury and obstruction of justice, which directly related to his extramarital affair with Monica Lewinsky. Is that correct?
Yes.
And your husband was impeached for perjury related to sexual behavior, correct?
I didn't understand what you said.
Your husband was impeached for perjury related to sexual behavior, his sexual behavior.
He was impeached for several reasons, and then was acquitted in the Senate.
And your husband flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane 17 to 26 times, correct?
He made several trips with different legs on the trip, as I recall.
But he flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane 17 to 26 times? Mm-hmm. Were you aware that Secret Service was dropped on some of those flights?
That is not my understanding.
Where they were not on some of those flights?
That is not my understanding.
So your understanding is that Secret Service was on all of the flights that President Clinton was on?
That is my
Epstein?
understanding.
By this standard of behavior, multiple credible accusers, including Juanita Broderick, who alleged rape against your husband was disbarred in Arkansas, lost his license law license before the Supreme Court, flew on Epstein's plane dozens of times, visited Epstein's island.
That is not true. That is absolutely untrue.
Well, there's documentation in the DOJ files. I'm not sure you're aware, your attorneys have told you, but Jeffrey Epstein told one of the victims to lie to investigators, to lie that Bill Clinton was ever on Epstein Island. I can provide that document to you.
We would like that document, please.
Okay.
Yeah, counsel,
I can do
because
that.
actually the files say just the opposite. Epstein himself denied he was.
These are FBI notes from an interview with a victim, and I can get you the victim number and the case number and the files. These are notes from a 302 interview.
If you'd like those, are you going to provide those now?
I don't. That's not my line of questioning. She brought it up, but I have a
I'm
document.
sorry,
I can give to
you're
you.
making a representation
Yeah.
as to the facts.
I didn't enter anything as an exhibit.
But it's factually inaccurate.
No, I can give it to you later. I can go find the document, make copies of it, and give it to you this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Okay. By your standard of pattern of behavior, according to documents released by the Department of Justice, your husband appears in photos in swimming pools, hot tubs, aboard Jeffrey Epstein's private plane with unidentified young women. We came here today and you told this committee that a pattern of behavior demands accountability, correct?
I said that I believe the committee should call anyone who had a substantial pattern and practice of contact with Jeffrey Epstein and his crimes before they came to light.
Does that include your husband?
And after they came to light. You're going to have a chance to question him tomorrow.
So I'll ask you again, by the standard you just set in your own words just now, does this standard apply equally to your husband or only President Trump?
I have said that my husband has been subpoenaed. He will appear. He will answer your questions to the best of his ability. But there is no evidence whatsoever of any connection with Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. And I think that that will be obviously apparent in the questioning.
What makes you so sure of that then? I mean, he's photographed
Objection
with...
is to speculate on something that's not.
Yeah, it is so speculative. I mean, swimming in a pool, sitting in a hot tub, there are millions of people who do that without any improper behavior or certainly committing any crimes. So I
Do you think most of the
men
men are like your husband that did anything wrong by were they being surrounded by young women, giving them massages on Jeffrey's private estate or private plane? Are they all innocent then?
You know, you are making assumptions in your questions that have not been proven and I don't believe are provable.
Okay. Why did you wait 6 months to have this hearing today or have this testimony?
You know, I've answered that. I thought that given the way that other witnesses who were subpoenaed at the same time were being treated, that there was an unfair treatment of both my husband and myself. And I thought that, especially from my perspective, I had very little, if any, information to provide you, and that I could have done it in a sworn statement, and you could have moved on to depose somebody else who might have more information that would be beneficial to your
I have two more questions, then we're going to pass it to Congresswoman Luna. After Jeffrey Epstein was convicted, did it concern you at all that you had taken a substantial amount of money from Jeffrey Epstein?
That's an inappropriate assumption. I did not take a substantial amount of money from Jeffrey Epstein. So far as I know, Jeffrey Epstein contributed to the joint committee that was supporting my Senate race.
Which was how much?
I believe I was told $20,000.
And you don't consider $20,000 substantial?
I do not consider it relevant to me because I have no recollection that I ever knew that he gave any money to the joint committee.
So you didn't talk to your donors, they gave $20,000 to your campaign?
My understanding of the rules back then is that there was no coordination between the committee and the campaign. So, no, I have no recollection.
But that doesn't
of
mean
knowing
you
that.
can't speak to your donors. That doesn't prohibit, the law does not prohibit you speaking to
But
donors.
I didn't know he was a donor. As far as I knew, he was not a donor until I learned this in
Did it
preparation
concern you at
for
all
the
that Ghislaine
testimony.
Maxwell was heavily involved with people you knew and were close to?
I knew people that I knew her. Yes, that's true.
And you just shrugged, you didn't want to look into it or have any
Nobody,
question about it?
until her crimes were revealed and she was indicted and tried and convicted, I don't think people knew very much about at all
And
what
then
she
how do
was
you know
doing.
Howard Lutnick?
I know Howard Lutnick because when I was senator on 9/11, the firm he headed, Cantor Fitzgerald, suffered the greatest loss of life. As I recall, something like 650 of his employees were murdered by terrorists that day. Howard Lutnick missed being a victim because he was delayed dropping his child off to kindergarten. You asked the question. I'm going to answer your question.
Now you're going to
This was what I spent my time doing.
I'm a survivor trying to look out for other survivors, trying to
and I was taking care of the people who lost 3,000 lives
and now you're being
at World
defiant
Trade
and
Center.
indignant today.
You asked me
I have
about
met
Howard
with Epstein
Lutnick.
survivors. I'm a survivor myself. You have emails. You've denied that Jeffrey Epstein, that you tried to get Jeffrey Epstein to give money to you.
I did
but
not.
Howard Lutnick was
If
used
you
to
have an
get
email
money.
with me asking Jeffrey Epstein for money.
I have an email from Howard Lutnick sending it to Jeffrey Epstein and his people to raise money for
I don't know about
for an event, an intimate event for you at his offices at Cantor Fitzgerald. You're
look,
going to sit
if
here
you-
today
if you would let me finish.
obfuscate and say to this committee, you didn't try to get money from Jeffrey Epstein when there was an intimate event in an email that Howard Lutnick emailed to Epstein's people and Epstein to get him to come to your intimate event at Cantor Fitzgerald, a very small event. And so I'm not going to public. You want to yell at me, that's fine, but I'll yell right back.
Well,
okay? I am looking out for
it's
survivors.
very-
I'm doing
look.
the job that you would not do and refuse to do as Secretary of State. Thank you, and I yield back to
No,
Congresswoman.
I'm going to finish answering the question, which I have a right to do. I am very sympathetic to your personal situation. I have read about it. I have seen you testify or speak on the floor about it. And I very much sympathize with not only what you went through, but appreciate your effort to stand up for survivors. I was a senator representing the people who were murdered on 9/11. Nobody lost more people than Howard Lutnick. You can say whatever you want. You can call him and have him appear before the committee. But I knew him as the man who lost the employees that he knew intimately, including his brother.
And he was a
so
go-between
I
between
worked.
you and
Let her
Jeffrey
finish
Epstein
her
raising
answer,
money
please.
for you.
Let her finish her answer.
You know what? If you don't want to hear what emotionally affected me, that's fine. But that's why I know Howard Lutnick. I went to the memorial service every 9/11 after the formal service was held.
I see what you're
with
doing here,
all-
and you're
with
obfuscating
all
from
of
the
his
questions. He was
people, the
go-between
families.
between you and Jeffrey Epstein raising money for
Well, you know, Howard Lutnick and I did work
Thank you. I will
together
now yield
because
to
we had a lot of
Congresswoman.
victims
Thank you.
to take care of, and we worked together to rebuild downtown Manhattan. That is how I know Howard Lutnick.
One thing about it, she was not gonna allow that lady to bully her, and she got her point across as to how she knew this Lutnick person. But yeah, so what y'all think about Miss Hillary Clinton and how she handled herself in this deposition? I mean, she gave them what they wanted her to come there for. You know, she asked for the public trial, they wouldn't do it. They have people sitting around here taking pictures and leaking it to the political influencers. She had a lot going on in there, and she was gracious enough to come back and finish her deposition when she could have just been done with it. And I liked how she sat there and said, "Look, ask my husband tomorrow." She pulled that Melinda Gates when they were talking about her husband and all his emails with Epstein, and she said, "Look, I got away from that muck." Okay. So Hillary's still married to what she got going on, but she ain't trying to answer for it, and I don't blame her. So we got Bull Monkey in the chat handling business. Thank you, Mr. Bull Monkey. um, let's see. We have Lou, and you know it. I saw him put on here for people to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Yes, please support the channel and do that. It's free. And yes, y'all, tonight we have talked about the Operation Epic Fury updates. We just got through looking at the highlights from Hillary Clinton's deposition. Tomorrow we'll look at Bill Clinton's highlights because it was just so much. I just couldn't make this no marathon live stream. You know what I'm saying? And then we talked about also the mass shooting in Austin. There should be some more updates tomorrow on that. So hopefully we'll see. And yeah, so as you guys know, I've been following the Nancy Guthrie situation. She still has not been located. And we do have a little bit of an update on that. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Savannah Guthrie and her siblings Annie and Cameron making an emotional visit to their 84-year-old mom Nancy's Tucson, Arizona home, 1 month after she went missing.
We still believe. We still believe in a miracle. We still believe that she can come home. We also know that she may be lost. She may already be gone.
The tear-filled clip, captured by News Nation, is the first public sighting of Savannah since her mom was seemingly kidnapped in the middle of the night on February 1st.
Mama, if you're listening, we need you to come home. We miss you.
We are looking for Nancy Guthrie. We want to find her. We hope she is alive, safe, and well, and get her home.
Nearly 30 days into the investigation, and it's turning into a bit of a cold case with no real leads, no known suspects, and no arrests.
But we need to know where she is. We need her to come home.
Y'all, that is just so sad to me that it's been a month and we still have not found Miss Guthrie. Very sad. Very sad. So I don't know, y'all. I'm still hopeful, but every day that we take to find her, it's less likely we're gonna find her in a positive way, right? But yeah, I did the poll where I asked you guys a question and I can't see the poll. Crazy. Let me see something, y'all. But I'm not gonna worry about it. If it comes up, we'll talk about it. If it doesn't, that's fine. But yes, y'all. So that's the update on Miss Guthrie. Still not been located. I saw what they were talking about possibly having Savannah go back to work soon. That's interesting. I mean, I don't know how one would pick up the pieces and continue on with that kind of still being undone, right? But we'll see what happens with that as well. We'll keep that on our radar. But anyway, y'all, for those who are still here, please make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, support the channel. I will be back tomorrow at 7:15 p.m. Eastern time. We'll talk about for sure Bill Clinton's highlights from his Epstein deposition. We'll see any updates with the Austin mass shooting, and also any updates with Miss Kristi Noem and her testimony as a minimum, plus Operation Epic Fury updates too as a minimum. So with that, you all have a good night, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Bye.